In 1989, on November 7th, Malaysian airline flight MH192 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. The plane was headed for Kathmandu, carrying 167 passengers and 11 crew members. The captain, a 47-year-old named Darius Turner, was a seasoned pilot with 15,000 flight hours, including over 2,000 in the Himalayas. The co-pilot, a 36-year-old called Kevin Lee, had transferred to commercial aviation after 8 years in the Malaysian Air Force. That day, one of the strongest storms in a decade broke out over the Himalayas. Weather experts recorded gusts reaching 120 kilometers per hour, a sudden drop in air pressure, and temperatures at 7,000 meters falling to minus 58 degrees Celsius. Despite the severe conditions, flight MH192 was cleared to fly because forecasts promised improved weather by the time they reached the mountains. The final radio contact came at 18:43 local time when Captain Turner reported entering rough turbulence and requested a descent to 7,600 feet. His transmission was cut off mid-sentence, and soon the aircraft vanished from radar as if swallowed by the peaks. A search began immediately, yet the harsh weather made the operation extremely difficult. 8 helicopters and 12 ground teams combed the suspected crash area for 3 weeks, but no trace was found in one of the most inaccessible parts of the Himalayas, where peaks tower above 7,000 meters. A month later, Nepalese officials ended the search and confirmed that all passengers and crew had perished. Among the 167 passengers were tourists from 14 different countries, a group of Buddhist monks on their annual pilgrimage, and a famous Himalayan climber named Robert Hayes, along with his 5-person team. For the families left behind, a long period of uncertainty and dashed hope had just begun. The mystery of flight MH192 remained unsolved for 34 years, until, in June 2023, an international mountaineering team led by Ethan Morgan set out to scale the eastern face of Kangchenjunga, the world's 3rd highest peak. This group of 5 included Ethan Morgan, a 46-year-old Scotsman with 20 years of Himalayan climbing under his belt; Samantha Novak, a 38-year-old climber from Kazakhstan who had conquered every 8,000er on the planet; Lucas Carter, an Australian doctor and climber; Daniel Kim, a South Korean photographer known for his high-altitude shots; and Tenzin Sherpa, a 3rd-generation guide from Nepal. Their initial plan was to test a new route on the eastern face of Kangchenjunga, a path thought nearly impossible because of steep ice walls and frequent avalanches. Previous attempts had failed 6 times, and over the years, 4 climbers lost their lives trying to climb that very route. Locals called the mountain Korlol Hamo, meaning Wheel of the Death Goddess in Tibetan. An old legend claimed that the mountain god hid a gateway to another world there, through which the souls of the dead would pass. At about 5,800 meters, the climbers encountered something they couldn't explain. Their electronic compasses began giving odd readings, as if the mountain was twisting the magnetic field. Even though the sky was perfectly clear, their GPS units lost signal frequently, which the team thought might be caused by high levels of iron or other metals in the rock. On the 3rd day at dawn, while camping on a narrow ledge at 6,200 meters, Samantha was the first to notice unusual bird behavior. A large flock of Himalayan vultures was circling in the warm air currents above a steep slope, half a kilometer from camp, something rarely seen in the area. 2 of these birds were especially remarkable, with wings that spanned up to 3 meters, clearly identifiable as Himalayan eagles. It wasn't just that such birds were flying so high. Their odd flight pattern, circling repeatedly over the same spot on the slope, made it seem as if they were trying to send a message. Tenzin Sherpa, his face pale, refused to follow the planned route. One of the climbers asked him questions he first dodged, but then explained using a local legend. His grandfather had told him that the mountain was home to Ram Trulma, where a guardian spirit in the form of a giant bird watched over the meeting point of the living and the dead. When Ram Trulma began circling an area, it meant that it was protecting souls trapped between worlds. Although Ethan Morgan was skeptical, he was still curious about the bird's strange behavior, typical of a raptor spotting large prey. The team decided to change their course to investigate what was drawing the eagle's attention. In the worst case, they would only lose a few hours. They shifted their route and reached a steep, icy slope that ended abruptly at a cliff. As they drew nearer to where the eagles circled, the bird's actions became even more erratic. They descended nearly to head height before soaring upward again, as if pointing the way. Suddenly, one eagle swooped down and plunged into the snow about 30 meters from the group. When the climbers moved closer, the bird took off, leaving behind a deep hole in the snow. Daniel Kim then brought out an ice axe to clear the snow. At roughly 1 meter deep, the axe struck something solid with a metallic clang. After 15 minutes of digging, a white panel with blue and red stripes, the airline's familiar colors, appeared. They could hardly believe their eyes. Over 6,000 meters up, the wreckage of a commercial plane lay in a spot thought unreachable even by the most experienced climbers. Their first thought was to call for help, but the satellite connection suddenly cut out. All devices showed fully charged batteries, yet no signal was sent. The team decided to expand their dig to learn the full scope of the discovery. In the next 4 hours, they cleared the surrounding snow, and by nightfall, a part of the fuselage was revealed, complete with 4 windows and the inscription MH192 on the side, the same aircraft that had disappeared 34 years earlier. It was now clear that the plane had crashed in a place considered utterly inaccessible. The thin air meant no helicopter could hover there, and ground teams would never reach that slope, as it did not lead to any known peak. The next morning, after a tense night near the wreckage, the climbers resumed their work. By midday, they discovered an opening in the fuselage wide enough for a person to squeeze through. Ethan Morgan and Samantha Novak, the most experienced members, decided to quietly enter the plane, while the others continued clearing the outside snow. Inside, time seemed to stand still. Oxygen masks hung from the ceiling, a half-full cup sat on a table, and an open magazine lay in the aisle with a photo taken just days before the Berlin Wall fell. The climbers moved very carefully, not wanting to disturb the fragile balance of the debris. In the first row of the passenger cabin, they found a bag with climbing gear. Inside was an ice axe engraved with the initials RH, belonging to the renowned climber Robert Hayes. Nearby lay his passport and a remarkably well-preserved leather notebook. When Ethan Morgan opened the notebook, what he read sent chills down his spine. It was the diary written by Hayes after the disaster. The final entry was dated December 16, 1989, more than a month after the plane had vanished. The diary told a harrowing tale of survival. Of the 178 people on board, only 47 made it through the first night. When the plane crashed into the mountainside during the blizzard, most died on impact. Captain Turner, one of the survivors, took command, organizing a makeshift shelter within the wreckage, distributing available food, and enforcing strict water rationing. Hayes wrote that the plane had crashed due to a strange magnetic anomaly. All instruments failed at once, leaving the pilots effectively flying blind. Minutes before impact, the captain saw a bizarre glow on the mountainside, as if the mountain itself was lit from within. He tried to steer away, but it was too late. More diary entries detailed the survivors' desperate struggle in extreme conditions. At night, temperatures dropped to -45 degrees Celsius. On the 5th day after the crash, survivors noticed strange behavior among the birds. Huge eagles began circling above the wreckage. On the 7th day, something incredible happened. an eagle dropped a goat into the shelter. Although the animal was already dead, it still felt warm. At first, the survivors thought it was an accident, but the next day the eagle returned with another body, suggesting it was deliberately feeding them. Captain Turner claimed that in his 20 years flying over the Himalayas, he had never seen anything like it. Over the next 2 weeks, the eagles continued delivering food to the survivors, sparing them from inevitable starvation. However, by the end of November, conditions worsened drastically. Heavy snow completely blanketed the wreckage, turning it into a frozen tomb. With oxygen in short supply, many survivors suffered from severe altitude sickness, and a record from December 4th noted that 3 more people died that day, leaving only 18 survivors. Captain Turner insisted that they had to get down immediately, or everyone would die. He suggested digging a tunnel through the snow to exit the wreckage. Meanwhile, the eagles continued circling the plane every day, and Hayes sometimes felt that they were trying to tell the survivors something. His final diary entry was short and shocking. "They dug a tunnel. We got out. The captain said we needed to go down the southeast slope. For some reason, the eagles then flew away. That night, I saw strange lights on the rocks again, pulsing like a beating heart. A local monk in our group said this was the light of transition, a passage to another world. I cannot say if I believe it, but I have no other explanation. If anyone finds this diary, know that we fought until the end and never gave up." The climbers were stunned. It turned out that some passengers had survived the crash and tried to descend the mountain. But what happened to them? Why were they never found? And what role did the eagles play in all this? Later, another aviation magazine was discovered in the cockpit. Captain Turner continued to document every strange event until the very end. On November 28th, he noted that the compass was still erratic, its needle constantly spinning, sometimes even moving counterclockwise. All electronic devices powered by the emergency generator showed meaningless readings. The altimeter displayed negative numbers, showing minus 2,000 meters, even though they were clearly above 6,000 meters, and the thermometer inexplicably jumped from plus 35 to minus 60. That night, the radio operator attempted to start an emergency transmitter and swore he heard an unknown language in his headset, as if the very area was warping reality. In his final message, the captain described witnessing a strange phenomenon with a surviving monk. The previous night, a glow reappeared on the slope, and the monks performed a ritual while chanting. They said it was a gateway between worlds, through which anyone passing would be reborn in another realm. As a scientist, the captain had not believed in such things, but after everything that had happened, he was open to any possibility. If they could not safely get down, perhaps it was worth exploring what was behind that light. Later that night, the climbers found something even more astonishing at the back of the plane. The emergency exit had opened from the inside, and dozens of bird feathers lay scattered on the floor. Some of these were confirmed by Daniel Kim, an avid birdwatcher, to belong to Himalayan eagles. The feathers formed a peculiar spiral pattern with a small metal object at its center, a centuries-old Tibetan talisman featuring a winged creature. Tenzin Sherpa later explained that this was the symbol of Ram Trulma, representing the protective spirit in the form of a giant bird. As the climbers continued clearing the exterior, they discovered tracks leading from the plane to the slope, the remnants of the snow tunnel described by Hayes, which ended abruptly at the cliff and was blocked by an ice wall over 500 meters high, making any descent without special equipment impossible. No one could explain what had happened to the survivors. If they had taken that route, they would have certainly fallen, yet no bodies were found below. That night, as the crew returned to the plane to shelter, more mysterious events occurred. Lucas Carter's satellite phone, off all day, suddenly powered on and began emitting odd sounds, a series of short and long beeps reminiscent of Morse code. Carter recorded the entire sequence, and when the team returned to base, one of the assistants, a former radio operator, deciphered the message, "We are alive but not here." That same night, the climbers observed the same glow described by Captain Turner and Hayes. It appeared on a rock about 300 meters from the plane, emitting a pulsing blue light similar to a concentrated aurora that twisted into a spiral. The most bizarre part was that when illuminated by a flashlight, the light seemed to bend as if space around it was warped. On the final morning, as the climbers prepared to leave the crash site and report their findings, they saw the eagles. One last time, the birds gathered around them, forming a living circle in the sky. One eagle clutched something in its talons before diving and dropping the object at Ethan Morgan's feet, a worn leather wallet. Inside were Captain Turner's ID and a family photo with his handwritten note on the back. "Pass through the light. New life awaits. Do not look for us here." The note was dated December 17th, 1989, the day after Hayes' final diary entry. 3 days later, the climbers descended to base camp and contacted Nepalese officials. Within a month, rescue teams, researchers, and airline representatives carried out a large-scale investigation of the crash site. They confirmed all of Ethan Morgan's team's findings, yet the mystery of the missing survivors remained unsolved. During the official expedition, strange occurrences persisted around the wreckage. Every electronic device nearby malfunctioned. Compasses spun randomly, and GPS readings were off by several kilometers. Meteorologists recorded unusually high levels of electromagnetic radiation near the site, though they could not explain its source. Geologists found that the rocks beneath the plane contained abnormally high concentrations of rare earth metals, including gadolinium and neodymium, known for their strong magnetic properties. But these anomalies did not account for the glowing light or the eagle's odd behavior. Analysis of the flight. Recorder revealed that the plane had entered a zone of intense electromagnetic disturbance just before the crash. All systems failed at once and communications were lost. The recorder captured the captain's final words. "What is that light? It's right in front of us. Pull back the yoke, we're about to..." And then the recording abruptly ended. Local residents from a nearby village told investigators that in their folklore, Kangchenjunga had always been considered both sacred and dangerous. According to legend, a gate of the world existed on its eastern side, guarded by a giant bird deity. They claimed that anyone who found this gate could enter another realm free of pain and death. Even more astonishing, village elders reported that about a month after the plane disappeared, strange people, not quite locals yet not entirely strangers, appeared in the area. Speaking in a heavy Nepalese accent and possessing unusual knowledge, they lived in the village for several weeks before vanishing, saying they were embarking on a long journey east. DNA tests on the feathers recovered from the plane revealed that while most samples belonged to Himalayan eagles, some contained genetic markers that did not match any known bird, leading scientists to speculate they might belong to an unknown raptor, adapted to extreme altitudes. The most striking discovery was a personal item of Captain Turner's found in his uniform pocket, a neatly folded paper with detailed diagrams of a spiral gate and complex mathematical calculations describing its properties. Physicists who studied these records were astonished. The equations outlined a theoretical model of a space-time tunnel, or wormhole in the language of modern quantum physics, a concept that only gained traction in the 2000s, decades after the disaster. The mystery of Flight MH192 remains unsolved. The official investigation concluded that the crash was caused by extreme weather and natural geomagnetic anomalies that led to navigation failures and the fate of the survivors who left the plane. On December 16, 1989, is still unknown. No bodies were found on the slope or below the cliff, only a tunnel carved in the snow. Ethan Morgan and his team earned international acclaim from their discoveries and continued to probe the mystery, gathering evidence and studying old records. Ethan Morgan even visited several passengers' families, including the widow of Captain Turner, who recalled that during the week before the final flight, her husband had told her about a strange dream. In it, he flew through a bright tunnel of light, flanked by giant birds with eyes like human eyes, and at the tunnel's end, he saw another world, peaceful and beautiful. When he woke, he said, "If something happens to me, know that I will not die. I am only moving to another place." A year after the crash site was found, Daniel Kim published a photography book titled Over the Abyss to commemorate the expedition. On the final day, a photo taken near the plane unexpectedly captured something inexplicable. Against a blue sky, a huge male eagle soared above the wreckage, and a closer look revealed its shadow on the snow resembled a human figure. Scientists continued studying the magnetic anomalies at the crash site. Every year, the eagles returned to the plane, as if guarding it against outsiders. Locals now call the eastern face of Kangchenjunga Bird Path instead of Wheel of the Death Goddess, and they claim that on clear days, strange flickering lights can be seen at the summit as though a gateway between worlds is opening. In the mountain villages at the base of Kangchenjunga, people talk about wanderers who appear every few years. They never discuss their past, yet they can predict the weather with incredible accuracy and possess a remarkable understanding of the mountains. They are often seen carrying unusual talismans, a metal spiral similar to the one found on the plane. Recently, Ethan Morgan received a mysterious package with no return address. Inside was a small silver pendant shaped like an eagle with outstretched wings, and on the back was inscribed a single sentence: "The road opens for those who believe. Seek us at sunrise." Captain Turner's widow claimed that over the years she had seen her husband in dreams. He always said the same thing: "I am still alive, but not here. The place we are now is wonderful. Do not grieve for me." The mystery of flight, MH192, continues to fascinate scientists and researchers. What is it? A rare natural phenomenon, a display of quantum physics, or a magnetic anomaly of incredible intensity? We may never know the truth. As one local monk put it, some secrets in the mountains exist not to be revealed, but to remind us of the limits of our understanding.